Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Let me introduce myself. My name is Khaeriyah Al-Fadhilah, 4th semester student with student ID number 20400120085. PBI-C class majoring in English Education, Faculty of Tarbiyah and Teaching, Alauddin State Islamic University, Makassar from Goa. In this video, I will explain about curriculum and instructional development, covering the three topics, namely the preliminary phase, development phase, and review phase. The things I want to do in this video is to explain the three topics. With this, the preliminary phase includes making decisions on needs analysis, gathering information on needs analysis, and using the information on needs analysis. The development phase includes selecting and organizing course contents, developing the teaching materials, and reviewing and validating the teaching materials, as well as a review phase which includes teaching instructional materials, evaluating learning outcomes, and summative evaluation. The first explanation is about the preliminary phase, namely making a decision on needs analysis. Hereby discuss about how to decide the participants, the information required in needs analysis, and the instrument to do the needs analysis. Making decisions on needs analysis. In this case, making basic decisions about the needs analysis. This refers to thinking about some fundamental decisions before any needs analysis can take place, that is to decide 1. Who will involve in the needs analysis, and 2. What types of information must be collected, and 3. Which points of view should be presented and how are they presented. 1. Who will involve in the needs analysis? To decide who, we need to decide two things. First, categories of people involved, and second, the number of people involved. Resource group. Graduates. 11 graduates involved as respondents in the study. They all graduated from English Education Study Program of the institution and have worked as English teachers at schools, college, as well as English Language Center. 3 graduates work at STAI and Parepare. 2 graduates work at Muhammadiyah University of Parepare. 1 graduate works at SMU Negeri 5 Parepare, and 1 graduate works at MAN 1 Parepare. 1 graduate works at SMU Negeri 1 Tanah Toraja, and 3 graduates work at Metro English Course Parepare. It is purposive sampling. And 2. What types of information must be collected? Information refers to facts gathered from needs analysis participants as representation of their timely and accurate needs to decide what types of information required in a needs analysis. We need to know 3 things. The first is 4 philosophies commonly exist in needs analysis from Staplebeam 1977. And the second, 3 basic dichotomies of needs analysis from Brown 1995, and 3 5-question categories for a needs analysis from Rosette 1982. 3. Which points of view should be presented and how are they presented? How are the points of view presented? Structure of needs analysis questionnaire. Structure refers to a number of parts or elements that are put together in a particular way to construct a needs analysis questionnaire. The structure in the questionnaires of a needs analysis consists of 2 main structures. It is the structure of preliminary question. The preliminary question structure serves as an introductory question which leads to the core question, such as the question of how important a course is, what are the purpose of studying the course, and what are the benefits of studying the course. And 2. The structure of core question. The core question structure serves to pick up key information needed regarding what needs it is, linguistic needs, and how needs or learning needs. The overall structure, preliminary questions, introduction. Part 1 is personal information. Part 2, the overview of the present needs of speaking. Course 1, core questions. The student's linguistic needs. Part 1, the overview of the student's learning ability, and Part 2, the overview of the student's learning priority, the student's learning needs. Part 1, the overview of the student's learning problems, and Part 2, the overview of the student's learning attitudes. Next is about gathering information and needs analysis, which is the second part of the preliminary phase, which includes how to distribute the questionnaires, process the data, present the data, and analyze the data of needs analysis. Gathering information and needs analysis. In this case, gathering information refers to the process of collecting data related to the fact recognized as needs in curriculum development. There are at least two important things to do. It is distributing the questionnaire to the participant of a needs analysis and processing the data from the questionnaire, and another instrument for data collection to be listed on a needs inventory. How to distribute the questionnaires? Manual distribution. Meet the participant in a room or large number of participants. It is target group over 20 students. Meet the participants in person or small number of participants. It is source group less than 10 teachers. Virtual distribution. Send the questionnaires to the participants' email address to be completed and sent back after the completion. It is audience group who live in different cities from the researchers due to their jobs or professions. Processing information from the questionnaires. Decide what sort of information is required. Introduction, personal information and perceptions on the need of speaking course availability. Linguistic needs, abilities, students' level of proficiency, priorities, language items that considered the most important to learn. Learning needs, problems, weakness, and difficulties in learning, and attitudes. Participants' feeling toward the elements of the programs and how they prefer to learn, example criteria, learning styles, and preferences. How to process the information. 1. Tabulating the information, and 2. Presenting the data in the form of tables, and 3. Providing analysis regarding the data. Tabulating the information. Tabulating means to arrange information from the questionnaires in columns on a page so that it can be analyzed, providing a form of data recapitulation, example criteria, data derived from research group. 11 graduates. Comments. From the data presented in Table 4.3, it is obviously seen that speaking to native English speakers is in the top position of the average score 3.38, which belongs to important category. However, from the students' perspective, most of them consider that speaking English to native speakers of English is put forward in very important level. This category reached the highest average score, that is 3.59, and followed by speaking to lecturers 3.31. And supporting information, speaking to native English speakers was dominantly selected by the students because they think that communicating with native speakers of English can be used as a measurement to find out their speaking skill progress. The more native speakers understand all the students say, the better their speaking skill is. This reason was described by one of the students in the interview. Student said, I think we need to measure how good our speaking skill is after we learn it for years in the college. As for me, speaking with native speakers of English can be a measurement to find out how good our speaking skill in terms of grammar correctness, vocabulary selection, pronunciation appropriateness, and cultural context. The better our skill in speaking, in other words, the English native speakers understand all we say without misunderstanding, the better our speaking skill as well. Interview November 22, 2013. And the conclusions, based on the statement, it seems that the students prefer to speak English to native English speakers because they find many advantages from speaking with them, such as native English speakers are much better at explaining grammar mistakes. Native English speakers provide accurate and authentic pronunciation models for the students. Native English speakers innately understand the appropriateness of word usage in conversation. Native speakers understand native English speaking cultural norms and can provide insight about them when communicating with the students. Native speakers speak English as it is actually spoken in English-speaking countries. For the reason, the students are sure that they have good English when they can effectively communicate with native English speakers without misunderstanding due to inappropriate use of grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation, as well as cultural norms of English. This can be possibly be cited by other researchers when they need supporting literature about what good English looks like. Next, in the third part of the preliminary phase is using the information in needs analysis. Hereby discusses formulating inventory needs and formulating goals and objectives. Using the information in needs analysis, in this case, the word using refers to two activities. The first is using needs analysis data to identify needs inventory. Things to include in needs inventory are those in core information available in the questionnaires. And the second, using the needs inventory to formulate goals and objectives that are formulated based on the identification of needs inventory. In other words, a needs analysis is the basis for goals and objectives formulation. Identify needs inventory. In identifying the needs inventory, two things to do. One, reviewing the needs identification from core questions, and two, putting the overall needs identification into tables of needs inventory, reviewing the needs identification from core questions. Reviewing linguistic needs, emphasizing the students' learning ability and learning priorities. And two, reviewing learning needs, emphasizing the students' learning problems and learning attitudes. Course objectives. 1. Students are able to practice some basic expressions for greeting and farewell when meeting other people, to introduce themselves and others, as well as to get and give personal information in informal situations. And 2. Students are able to talk about their families using vocabulary for family members, able to address basic questions for requesting information about family members, as well as able to describe and illustrate family members. 3. Students are able to use appropriate expressions and vocabulary to tell the time and ask the time in English. 4. Students are able to ask a daily routine of someone they know and able to talk about their own daily routines. And 5. Students are able to use appropriate expressions when talking about chores at home and identify the responsibilities they normally do at home. And 6. Students are able to talk about their leisure time and then to practice speaking about their own free time activities using the phrases they have learned. And 7. Students are able to state intention to purchase items, to ask price of items, and to request correct change when incorrect change is received. And 8. Students are able to state clothing needs, including color and size, and to differentiate size by reading text and tape measure. 9. Students are able to talk about food and to encourage them to discuss their own preferences and attitudes towards food and cooking. And 10. Students are able to use appropriate phrases to express future plans and able to state and to talk about their ambitions or dreams for the future. And 11. Students are able to identify kinds of jobs, to talk about jobs by asking someone what they do for a living job and answering someone if they ask, and to give a description of jobs and where they work. Furthermore, the second explanation is about the development phase, namely selecting and organizing course contents. Hereby discuss about how to select the major topics and determine the order of the topics and planning course structure or designing syllabus. Selecting and organizing course contents. In this case, selecting syllabus contents. Selecting the major topics and determining the order of the topics. To select the major topics derived from the needs inventory or discovering the initial list of the topics. To determine the order of the topics is consultation with teachers or review or refine the initial list to determine the criteria for sequencing the course contents. And the fact, 12 important topics, time allotment or the number of sessions of the course, 5 topics before midterm test and 6 topics after midterm test, total 11 topics, which means 1 topic must be skipped. How to skip 1 topic? The major topics from needs inventory is deciding the initial list or the number of topics required by considering 1. The importance of the topics, and 2. Time allotment or the initial list and the sequence of the topics from consultation with teachers. The initial list decides 11 topics from 12 topics by omitting 1 topic. It is classroom. This is done based on the teacher opinion who consider that the students already have sufficient knowledge of the topic. The sequence of the topics use needs criteria based on the needs of students from personal to their social lives, simple to complex, chronology, prerequisite, learning, whole to part or part to whole, spiral sequencing from Richard 2001. The criteria is decided based on the lectures, statements from an interview. The order of the topics is then decided. Compare initial and decided topics. Consultation with teachers also decided the grammatical demands of the topics by linking the topics with the grammatical items. As for planning the course structure or design syllabus, design realization of the inventory of needs analysis into actual productions, example Khaeriyah syllabus, lesson plans, and prototypes of the teaching materials from Kaharuddin and Arafa 2017. Design of the syllabus is carried out by 1. Selecting the syllabus framework, and 2. Developing the syllabus or distribution of the contents of the course. Selecting the syllabus framework. This design uses integrated or mixed syllabus framework or an alignment of 3 different syllabus. It is topical or content-based syllabus or organized around themes or topics, and structural syllabus or organized around grammatical items, and competency-based syllabus or organized based on specification of competency expected to master. The alignment is determined to satisfy the linguistic needs and the learning needs of the students. Developing the syllabus, the distribution of the course contents, it is number of sessions or week, them, units, topics, activities, grammar items, competencies. And next is about developing the teaching materials. which is the second part of the development phase. It contains how to write a lesson plan and determine the organizational structure of the teaching materials. Developing the teaching materials in this case, three procedures. 1. Mapping out the course items in the form of sections or instructional blocks. Unit consists of several lessons. The representation of the instructional blocks is the lesson plans. 2. Making the prototype of teaching materials based on the lesson plans. And 3. Getting experts of ELT to review the prototype. Next, in the third part of the development phase is reviewing and validating the teaching materials. Reviewing and validating the teaching materials in this case, items to be reviewed, items, contents, language components, activities, as well as supplementary materials contents. Contents refer to the subjects or topics covered in the teaching materials. To evaluate the effectiveness of the teaching materials contents, there are some comprehensive statements to give concerning the review of contents. Among other things, the diversity of topics or the materials cover a variety of topics or situations. The relevance of the topic to the level and needs, or the topics are relevant to your level and needs. The contribution of topics to the development of language skills. The materials focus on giving you an opportunity to practice more speaking. The authenticity of the material in the topics, or the materials use authentic text or dialogues. Supplementary materials. Supplementary materials refers to instruments or media which are added to support and to improve teaching activities. Some suggested statements about the review of supplementary materials are: instrument or media for learning a certain language component. There are tips for pronunciation practice and listening comprehension. And the availability of hands-out, or there are some hands-out for each lesson. The availability of authentic materials, exempli photos. There are supplementary authentic materials, exempli photos. Review items coverage from Studio Note 2003 test. Khaeriyah provides some information about score range, qualitative descriptions, and follow-up decisions. The instrument for review process. Analyze the review results. Comments. The data from the table above indicate that based on the two experts' perspectives, the samples of teaching materials for speaking course 1 seem to be relevant to the students' needs and level in terms of lesson sequences, topic selection, vocabulary and language focus or grammar, language function, and language activities. The analysis of the two experts' responses resulted in the total average score 3.92, which means very good, and the follow-up is no revision needed. Supporting information. Furthermore, the two experts also gave their comments associated with the teaching materials. The first expert gave the following comments. 1. The lessons in each topic are sequenced in a good order because they are generally organized from general to specific, from easy to difficult, as well as from simple to complex. And 2. The materials in each lesson will be very helpful to develop the student's speaking skill, such as the vocabulary snapshot and the pronunciation drills. 3. The communicative activities will be very interesting to the students because they are equipped with pictures, ears, handouts, and games. On the other hand, the second expert commented the teaching materials like 1. The lessons really cover the students' needs in speaking, such as vocabulary, pronunciation, and grammar. And 2. The activities are very attractive, for example, pair practice, role play, and language games. And 3. The materials will be rather difficult to be implemented by the other English teachers in the classrooms without a special training for teaching the materials. And the conclusion is the fact as presented above illustrate that the teaching materials drafts are then ready to be used for teaching speaking skill in the class of speaking course 1, which is specifically taught at the English education study program. And the last topic is the review phase, which discusses about teaching instructional materials. Hereby explain about how to decide the instructional materials to be presented and to determine the procedures in teaching the instructional materials. Teaching instructional materials in this case review the process of describing the outcomes of trying out the developed course content, example Khaeriyah, syllabus, lesson plans, and teaching materials. This phase should be carried out in 2 steps. It is implementing the instructional materials in the classroom and evaluating the outcomes of learning. Implementing the instructional materials in the classroom, things to consider: 1. Selecting instructional materials, and 2. Deciding procedures, and 3. Time allotment, and 4. The number of participants, and 5. The implementers. Selecting instructional materials. 1. The topics of the instructional materials are randomly selected among the 11 topics of the developed teaching materials, namely My Family, Cooking and Food, as well as future plans. 2. The number of topics of the instructional materials is selected based on the decision of tryout time allotment. Deciding procedures. Each instructional materials is implemented in 2 general procedures. It is teaching and evaluating, with special time allotment and procedures for each. Section 1. Teaching, opening, explaining, and training activities. Lesson A and Lesson B 60 minutes, and Lesson A skill getting 40 minutes. And 1. The teacher introduces the topic which is going to be the focus, that is that family, and explains the importance of recognizing information on family members, 5 minutes. And 2. The teacher explains phrases and vocabulary required to talk about family, such as nuclear family and extended family members, etc. 10 minutes. And 3. The teacher gets the students to listen to the audio recording of the phrases and vocabulary to know how they are pronounced in English, 5 minutes. And 4. After having the students listen, the teacher has them repeat all the speaker says to practice pronouncing each phrase and vocabulary, 5 minutes. And 5. The students are then split to sit in pairs for having skill-getting activity, that is interview, to practice talking about family life, 15 minutes. Lesson B. Skill using, 20 minutes. 1. To make the students able to use the phrases and the vocabulary in real life. The students are asked to listen to a conversation between 2 people who are talking about their families, 5 minutes. So after listening, the teacher explains expressions and vocabulary in the conversation, 5 minutes. And 3. The students are then split in several groups of 2 to practice speaking creatively by using expressions and vocabulary of meeting new people in role-play activity, 10 minutes. Section 2. Evaluating activities. Lesson C. Review, 30 minutes. Language game, 20 minutes to determine whether the objectives of this course have been accomplished. Language game is given to the students, such as find someone who owns the handout, board game, etc. The game Find Someone Who Owns the Handout is normally carried out using the following procedures. 1. All the students' completed handouts are collected and distributed at random. 2. Make sure that the students do not recognize the owners of the handouts they are holding. 3. The students circulate and try to find the owners of the handouts by addressing questions of the half dialogue role play example Khaeriyah. Would you mind telling me about your family? And 3. They need to match the answers they hear from their interlocutors with the answers in their handouts. 4. If their interlocutors' answers do not match with the answers on the handouts, then the students should continue to walk around asking the other students to search for the owners of the handouts. And 5. As the students find the students who are suspected to be the owners of the handouts, they have to ask the student example Khaeriyah, is this your handout? And 6. If the students being asked, hey, example Khaeriyah, yes, it's mine, they then need to put their names and signatures on the handouts as an evidence that the students have succeeded in finding out the owners of the handouts. Grammar presentation, 10 minutes. The teacher explains grammar items commonly used to talk about the topics. Extra class work, the teacher gives grammar exercise to do at home to make sure that the students have learned something from the explanation of the grammar items. Next is about evaluating learning outcomes, which is the second part of the review phase, in which there is how to decide the use of formative or summative evaluation. Evaluating learning outcomes. In this evaluation phase, summative evaluation is used for evaluating the effect of teaching the course contents to the targeted groups as the results of implementing the syllabus design and the instructional materials. Summative evaluation refers to checking off what has been learned at a specific point in time. It is at the end of a unit or course. It is based on cumulative learning experiences, tests for achievement and mastery of specific performance objectives. And the evaluation procedures are adapted from Kirkpatrick's 1996 for level models of summative evaluation. Next, in the third part of the review phase is the summative evaluation, which discusses how to find out students' reactions or attitudes, measuring what the students have learned, finding out teachers' behavior, and showing the results of the evaluation. Summative evaluation, in this case, reactions. The first level of evaluation was conducted by assessing 15 students' reactions or attitudes after learning with the teaching materials. The instruments used in this level were questionnaires with Likert scale and open questions. The students were required to fill in the given questionnaires by selecting one of 7 optional categories. It is 1 is strongly disagree, 2 is disagree, 3 is slightly disagree, 4 is neutral, and 5 is slightly agree, and 6 agree, and 7 strongly agree. These categories were used to determine the students' perceptions toward the implementation of the teaching materials, which were specified into positive, neutral, and negative attitudes. That's the explanation I can give. The conclusion that can be drawn are that these 3 topics are a planning and preparation process as well as activities carried out in order to produce teaching materials and references that are used to achieve goals, which are very important to learn and understand so that no mistakes occur in doing so. With this, English language teachers and students really need to master and understand this, as well as a guide in teaching and learning activities. And the references that are seen or studied must be clear and reliable. And not to forget, I'm very grateful to the supervisor in the Curriculum and Instructional Development course, Mr. Dr. Kaharudin SIPM, who have shared and provided knowledge, and the author of the book Syllabus Design for English Language Teaching, Professor Dr. Abdul Hakim Nyasi, EIPLTESLMA, and Dr. Kaharudin SIPMHUM as a reference that I took in making this video. And to my beloved family, especially father and mother, for all the prayers, love, and support so that I can complete this task, as well as my beloved friends who have answered the questions I asked. Thus the video this time that I made more or less. Please forgive me because I'm also still in the learning process. That is all, and thank you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.